Hey guys, and welcome to another video. So today we'll be reviewing Watford, who are 17th in the Premier League, also on 27 points. So a very sort of mixed season not mixed season, but strange season for Watford in terms of, the amount of managers they have had. Normally, obviously, they do have a few managerial changes throughout the season. But this season has been unusual even for Watford, which is saying something. They've had 3 managers so far this season, and obviously I'll talk about that a bit later in the videos. Anyway, as always, review the cup competitions first. So pretty poor showing in both competitions this season. The League Cup, they lost in the 4th round against Everton. Then in the FA Cup, they lost in the 3rd round replay against Tranmere. So very sort of poor showing in the cup competitions by Watford, and sort of that obviously shows sort of where their aspirations lie. Obviously, the board of directors want Watford to stay in the Premier League and be a Premier League club for as long as they can, and obviously the cup competitions don't really mean that much to them. Obviously, last few seasons they have got obviously to the final, but obviously they lost quite heavily in that final last season, and obviously they've got to the semi-finals, that kind of thing, the last few seasons. So they have done well in the cup competitions, in previous years, but obviously this season, I think because of all the changes and stuff going on behind the scenes and all that at Watford, I think obviously the cup competitions haven't really been their priority this season. So yeah, very poor showing in the cups by Watford this season. Going towards sort of the overall review, obviously as I mentioned right at the start of this video, they've had 3 changes in managers so far this season. They started off the season with Javi Gracia, who obviously got them to the FA Cup final last season, kept them in the league. But obviously he had a poor start to the season, losing 3 out of the first 4 games. And obviously Watford were concerned already, so they decided to get rid of him. Then they brought in Quique Sanchez Flores, who obviously did very well with them in the 2015-16 season, where he got them to 13th place. Did well in the cup competitions as well. So obviously it was a surprise choice because they were linked with a lot of other names, but as he was well respected at Watford and liked by supporters, players, that kind of thing, you thought, okay, maybe that's quite a good appointment by Watford. But unfortunately he couldn't work his charm for a second time, and yeah, Watford were just very poor. They weren't scoring goals, they were conceding quite a lot. They didn't seem to really understand the way he wanted them to play this time. And he just couldn't work his magic, and it just wasn't working. You could see that the sort of players didn't really know what they were supposed to be doing, what he wanted them to do, how he wanted to get them to play. The defence was all over the place, and yeah, they decided to depart company with him and bring in Nigel Pearson. It was around December time they decided to do that. The first game was the game we were sitting in the stands was Watford at home against Palace. We were sitting in the stands and they drew 0-0 with that, with us that day. Since that game, Pearson has implemented, what he wants to do, what he wants to try and do with the squad. Obviously he's a very capable manager. He's done very well in the past with Derby. He did well with obviously Leicester. So he's a well-respected manager, and he's just got them doing the basics right, and that's all you can ask, especially sort of when you're in a relegation fight like Watford are. You've got to do the basics right. Like, instead of trying to be all fancy around the back, just clear it. If you need to kick out of play, kick out of play. If sometimes you have to go long to the striker and play that way, do it. If you got the ability or you're on top in the game, pass it around, that kind of thing. Work as a team, double up on a winger if he's a dangerous player, that kind of thing. It's just basics, and definitely think Pearson has brought that back into Watford, and also sort of gives off that, he's got a sort of no nonsense approach. So maybe it's worked with some of the players. Maybe they needed sort of, someone to have a go at them and shout at them, that kind of thing. Sometimes players thrive off that, and maybe that's what, some of the Watford players didn't get from the previous two managers that they had. So yeah, a lot of sort of changes in managers this season, and you sort of maybe feel that this is a season that it caught up with Watford. A lot of times, even back in their Championship days, they used to change managers quite a lot, but it always used to work. So it sort of went under the radar, that kind of thing. But you sort of feel, as I said, this season is a season where it's caught up with them. They've tried to bring in two managers, and it just hasn't worked. And that's why they're in the position they are, only out of the relegation zone on goal difference. So yeah, that's my view on that, on Watford's managers. Obviously, as well, as I said, not enough goals scored, and as well, you sort of feel they rely heavily on Troy Deeney. He's a player a lot of people love to hate, but he is a player you would love in your squad, because he does fight for the badge. He's a sort of no nonsense centre forward. He can get a few goals here and there, and he's a very good player, very physical, holds up the ball very well, and yeah, and he has been injured quite a lot this season, and you sort of feel definitely Watford have missed out on that, especially up top, because they've got your sort of flair wingers in Delafeu and Pereira, but when you haven't got a striker in there like Deeney fighting for it, it's going to be felt when he's not there. So that's maybe one thing Watford have got to maybe look at doing in the transfer window, is obviously trying to get not a replacement for Deeney. I don't think Deeney's done yet, but someone who can maybe work alongside Deeney, or when Deeney is injured, they can come in and it's not so missed if he does get injured or suspended or whatever. So maybe that's something Watford have got to do to try and cope a little bit more. Obviously, they brought in a few players. One player that's doing quite well after a slow start is Ismail Sarr. Very pacey winger. Can sort of play down the middle, but obviously hasn't got that prowess that Deeney has. But he's definitely, before obviously the season was suspended, he was starting to come into form. Obviously, he got those 2 goals against Liverpool, and that was probably his best performance in a Watford shirt since coming to the Premier League. And obviously, Watford fans are excited about Sarr. So we'll see if he gets like a full pre-season, stuff like that in the Premier League. See, maybe next season he might, get to the heights that that was expected of him when he came in. So overall, with Watford, I'm going to give them a 5.5 out of 10. I don't think it's been a very good season for them. Obviously poor in the cup competitions, and also quite poor in the league. Too many managerial changes, signings that not all of them have delivered, and obviously on big wages, stuff like that. Also as well, not really playing that well, not really finding a style that suits them. Leaky defence, so that's why my rating's like that. Anyway guys, thank you for watching. If any Watford fans stumble across this video, what do you think of your season so far? Do you think you can stick with Nigel Pearson for now, or do you think he's at the end of the season he's going to be got rid of by the directors? What do you think for the next few seasons? Do you think you need to find a replacement for Deeney, or someone who can work alongside him? And what do you think of the other players you got? Where do you think you need to strengthen? Who do you think you need to get rid of? Anyway guys, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be Bournemouth. Take care guys, and goodbye.